Howdy, howdy, fellow football fans, and welcome back for another edition of the Far Out Football Podcast brought to you by PTE Creative. As always, I'm your host, Evan Davies. We're talking trade deadline acquisitions, missteps, if you will, and we're going to be talking our Week 10 game picks. What a fun time it shall be. Now, quick update. As our regular viewers know, we've been picking every single game this year. Bit of a betting exercise. I highly recommend y'all do this if you're interested in sports betting. See how good you actually are at picking games. Last week, another impressive week. We went 12-2. Now that brings our overall season totals to 88 and 48. So we're almost at a 66 percentile here in terms of picking correctly, which is really, really good for a traditional betting market when you're just picking straight up. And that's why I avoid point spreads, because you're going to be a little bit more successful and it's a little bit safer way to bet. This is the great betting experience, so we know our game picks are doing pretty well, but we're going to first go into the trade deadline. Let's go through those acquisitions right now. So as we go through, we had a pretty active trade deadline for us here in the U.S., which I would assume is most of our viewers, but you never know. We do get a few international. For here in the U.S., obviously it was election day this past Tuesday. I'm recording this the day after the election, so regardless of what your thoughts are, one thing is for certain when it comes to the NFL. The trade deadline was crazy and no one talked about it because everyone was always focused on the election. Now, the sports shows are going to say, we still covered it. That's great, but no one was paying attention to sports shows. Tuesday, they were paying attention to election coverage or avoiding election coverage altogether. I didn't check election coverage until like 10 o'clock that night because I just wanted to enjoy my day. Now, we had some big trades named here. And I have this kind of broken down into three categories. Big guys, filler, and then Y guys. When you look into the big guys, those are those big acquisitions that you're trying to make to really improve your team. Those are the splash trades that we're always trying to see in the NFL. We don't usually get. We got quite a few of them this. And then there's the filler ones where you're trying to fill a need, but it's not really super impactful. That's usually what a successful trade market is in those. And then you have the Y guys, just as a why did you trade for them? And we have a few of those as well. Let's start here with Khalil Davis. Texans trade him for a 7th round pick over to the 49ers. The 49ers are in rough shape defensively. They need more depth, frankly. Their rushing defense, I should say, is nowhere near as good as it usually is. I mean, I know they have a barrage of injuries. Bad, but it's just really, really bad compared to normal San Francisco. It's good depth. He would be a filler guy for me, not a Y guy or a big guy, but decent little pick. Decent pickup. This is a previous trade that happened before the deadline. Ernest Jones. I still think that's a good pickup for the Seahawks. Seahawks are still looking very competitive. If anyone wants to talk about a ref-assisted win, I felt like the Rams had quite the ref-assisted win the other day against the Seahawks, but nonetheless, I know everyone's going to complain about the Kansas City Chiefs getting ref-assisted wins. If you watch that Rams game, that one, in my opinion, was particularly bad, especially the roughing the pass call that went against. But Ernest Jones has been a pretty good pickup for Seattle, in my opinion. Jerome Baker in a 4th round selection back. It's a good pickup for Tennessee, who should have sold a lot more, in my opinion, because they don't have his talent. Cam Akers and a conditional 7th went for a conditional 6th. That's in 2026 from the Texans and the Vikings. Again, it went before the trade deadline. I think that's good depth, and Cam Akers has thrived in the offense that Kevin O'Connell had in the Rams when Akers was available, or with the Rams while Akers was available, and worthwhile to try. No problems with that pickup. Here is the ultimate news getter, which is crazy because we had some real names traded, but this was the biggest news getter, obviously. Jonathan Mingo being traded for a 4th round pick. I had no issue with Jonathan Mingo coming out in the draft. I thought he could have been a good player. Hasn't really panned out for Carolina. But he's done absolutely nothing there. Nothing. In what way does that garner a 4th round pick? This is more typical Jerry Jones bullshit. It makes no sense. You're going on about how you're too poor to go make acquisitions and capped out. Okay. That usually means you're going to protect every draft pick possible to foster your team with skill position players or of the like through the draft. Jonathan Mingo hasn't really panned out yet. Maybe you think you can make him pan out. All due respect to that, I don't think Dallas is the place that's going to get that out of them. Dallas is far too focused on get the ball to CeeDee Lamb and that's it because they don't have a team. It's nothing against Mingo. And if you wanted to acquire Mingo, fine. The Panthers are clearly selling their team off right now. Deontay Johnson going for a fifth, Jonathan Mingo going for a fourth. So the receiving crew that they have there was already bad, and they're just like, we don't care. But to trade a fourth round pick, this is really the problem. You trade for this guy and you trade a seventh or even a sixth. Great. I could even see as much as a conditional fifth if he performs well. But this, I understand he's only a second-year player and he was a second-round pick. But he's done absolutely nothing, and your team is not in a place to make him succeed. So you're really just going to probably forfeit draft capital unless this completely goes against type. And frankly, Dallas is the consummate two-type team. It's just highly unlikely. And a fourth-round pick, you can still get some good players. Hell, you found your quarterback in that round. So to give that pick away for someone who's had no production and go into a system that hasn't shown that they can produce anything, I don't think that's a recipe for success. That's a Y guy, right? Another Y guy is Tre'Davious White. He was tremendous a couple years ago. I know injuries derailed his career. Tre'Davious White and a 2027 seventh round pick are going to the Ravens for a 2026 seventh round. The pick swap is whatever, but you can tell a lot about the trade because of the pick swap, because they just flipped. The Rams just said, we'd like a pick faster. Tre'Davious White isn't doing anything for our team. They literally, that's what they did with this trade. I know Baltimore needs some depth. This is why this trade is made. It's a nothing trade, but it's still a Y guy because Tre'Davious White really isn't going to help you anymore. His health has just really derailed his career, and that's the case about it. Then another really off-putting trade. We are seeing a little bit more. I just saw some video footage of the interview Preston Smith did with his first time in Pittsburgh. Preston Smith traded from the Packers to the Steelers for only a seventh round pick next. Now, for Pittsburgh, great trade. You get a player with known production, add some depth, but it's not all on him. Good rotational piece in a system he's comfortable with. Great trade. Green Bay, I don't think Preston Smith's a first round, trade candidate or a second rounder, but for a seventh, this is just clearly saying he doesn't have a future here, so let's just get something for him. But he signed through 2026. So you at least probably could have got a sixth rounder or even a fifth rounder. And frankly, because it's a pass rusher, you usually have to do the pass rusher premium. I would have said you'd give me as a fourth for Preston Smith. I could even see if you want that higher draft pick, and I know they traded for Mike Williams, who we're going to talk about in a second. Mike Williams, let's just go to it right now. Went for the 2025 fifth round pick. But the fourth is still on the table, and the sixth is still on the table. If I were Green Bay, didn't get the pass rusher premium, so it's the ultimate. Why would you make this? When I was asked about it in private circles, especially with Brandon and a lot of other people, it was, why would you make this trade? And the only thing I could think of is, I think maybe this might be a cap dump for next year and the year after, so we can prepare for some of our wide receiver depth to get signed. Green Bay, but I'm not entirely sure. But it just doesn't quite make sense because it's not like the Packers couldn't use more pass rushing help. So to just trade one away and not get the premium for it was just why. But really good big guy trade for Steelers. All I would have said is, if you're Green Bay and you see a fourth rounder or a sixth rounder still on the table, and maybe Pittsburgh doesn't do it, that doesn't mean other teams wouldn't theoretically want that. Now, Preston Smith said he wanted to be traded because he just didn't feel like he fit in the Jeff Hafley system in Green Bay. Okay, that's fine. You did good by a player. That's great. that's something that should be commended, because a lot of times teams do not do well by doing right by their players. You did well by your player, but you really did at the detriment to your own team for only a 7th-round pick. Green Bay has a great drafting history, but 7th-round picks that work out really, really well don't have a high percentage for any team. Doesn't matter how well you draft. So I would have at least done, maybe I would have sent an additional pick back, like, hey, we'll give you our 7th and Preston Smith for a 4th, maybe even the 6th. But to only get the 7th is not good business for Green Bay, in my opinion. You go to Mike Williams. They needed more wide receiver help in Pittsburgh. They got it for a 5th-round pick. He was doing nothing with the Jets after Aaron Rodgers lost all trust in him. Good on them. That's a good big guy pickup, in my opinion. They needed more help in the position. Good on them. And then, in my opinion, the best trade of all yesterday, Commanders coming in hot, taking Marshawn Lattimore and a 5th-round pick back for next year's 3rd, next year's 4th, and next year's 6th. You lose two middle round draft picks. That does suck. But you pick up a player that's proven, really good high end player here from a team that needed it. I think this is exactly what trades should be. It helps everybody. Marshawn Lattimore didn't really have a future in New Orleans because New Orleans doesn't have a future right now. It seems like they're finally going to do the hard reset they need to do. You know what you need to do when you have a hard reset? You have no money. Draft picks. You need to get as many as possible. That's what they did. I love this. You did right by the player. Send him to a team that A, can use him, that's competitive, has a chance to really make some damage in this upcoming playoffs in the next couple of years. You did right by the player, and you did right by yourself. This is perfect trading, in my opinion. Really well done. I like it. You don't think you have a use for him? Get something back for him. Great on New Orleans' part, and Washington, good on getting a great player. Khalil Herbert going from the Bears over to the Bengals. The Bengals need a running back. That's great. To give it 7th-round pick back kind of sucks. I think it's more of a value of the position more so than the value of the player. Khalil Herbert's pretty good. So to only get a 7th-round pick back for him, I think you probably could have got a 6th or 5th with him. You're just not doing enough with him, so that you devalued yourself. You screwed yourself. That's a filler guy for me. Not a big guy, but nonetheless. And probably the best trade outside of Marshawn Lattimore was Darius Smith and a 2026 7th-round pick, going for a 5th-round pick and a 6th-round pick in 2026 to the Browns. The Lions pick up a pass rusher that they desperately needed to help fill with Aiden Hutchinson. Their defense is good, but there is definitely some detriment to their pass rush without Aiden Hutchinson, and to fulfill that with a player of Zadarius Smith's caliber is pretty darn good. And now he'll play for his 3rd NFC North team. So it is kind of fun to see him just exist in that, stratosphere. He's Bay, he's played with Minnesota, now he's going to play with Detroit. It's fun to see him back in that division. I think it's great. Pass rush depth is always needed, and you didn't give that much up, and he still got a pick back. Well worthwhile. Really, when you look at it, you give up a 5th-round pick for a good pass rusher. That's a great trade. And just to make sure they got some pick equity back, you went down 30 picks from the 6th round to the 7th round, where it's a crap. No problems there. Baron Browning from the Broncos going for a 6th-round pick to the Cardinals. Cardinals, good pickup. They're seeing that they're competitive. They're going to try to make those help. Great, good on them. Don't understand this from Denver's side. I know he hasn't played that much, but you don't want to get rid of pass rusher depth when you have a chance to make the play. It just doesn't make that much sense. And we've seen Cam Robinson come up from Jacksonville to Minnesota. What doesn't make sense to me about this one is Cam Robinson, starting left tackle, on a team in Jacksonville that refuses to accept reality. They should have either sold more or not sold anything. But just letting a tackle go, I'm not saying Cam Robinson's God's gift to the tackle position, but you don't give tackles up, especially just for a conditional 5th-round pick. I mean, yes, it could be a 4th, but you give a 7th-rounder back and you lost an offensive line rotational piece. I don't agree with that trade at all. Again, it's just typical Jacksonville Jaguar fucking Mark bullshit. Don't like it. Deontay Johnson going for a fifth, and you get a sixth back with him. Baltimore. Great trade on Baltimore's part. Add some depth to your receiver room. Love it. Then we already saw some dividends for this one. Josh Uche going for a sixth round pick to England. Now he's coming over to Kansas City. Need more depth. Pass rushing help. Kansas City. Make that vaunted defense even better. Love that. Great job on Kansas City's part. Good for them. And they got DeAndre Hopkins for just a conditional fifth round pick. People want to shit all over Kansas City, and I understand it. Not always fun to root for the team in vogue. You want to hate the team that's in vogue. They just do things better here, and this is too. You got a young pass rusher. A young pass rusher to pair with other young pass rushers and a super veteran in Chris Jones. Awesome. And it's not all on him. You can let him go hunt. That's great. And you go get one of the best wide receivers of a generation when he still has a lot to give. And you pair him with a team that needs wide receiver help. Love that. And we already saw Patrick Mahomes was dicing up more of the defense like he normally would do. Love that for Kansas City. Great trade. Then we already saw Devontae Adams, Mark Cooper. We've already talked about that. And Roy Robertson Harris. So those are your trade deadlines today. Talk about overall, really fun to see some trades actually go through for once and not be just meh. It's fun to get that because it's exciting. I want to see that. Well, we're going to get to our game picks right here. And no, we had some fun with the trade deadline. Let's go now to our game picks. Again, we went 12-2 last week. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun to keep. Thursday Night Football, we have the Bengals at Baltimore. Bengals at the Ravens. Ravens unveiling new helmets. All purple with the old classic Raven head logo. Straightforward looking one. Pretty cool. Baltimore's favored by 6.5. I would avoid points, but I'm taking Baltimore. Don't trust Cincinnati. Never have, never will. I do it. Do it. I do it. Yep. Nope. And I know Baltimore just gave up a loss to Cleveland. They avenged that one pretty well. So don't worry about Baltimore. They're still one of the most talented teams. New York Giants -5.5 going to Carolina, and not going to Carolina. They're going to Germany. This is the Germany game. And it's fun because now this is really an extended family game as our boy Brandon, his wife Laura. Brandon, Giants fan. Laura, Panthers fan. I've just been razzing them nonstop that I hope they tie. God, I hope they tie. So is my wife out. We're just both just rooting for chaos just because it'd be funny. Giants are favored by 5.5. I am going to take the Giants here. I think their defense is way too good to just lose a game to someone like Carolina that's actively selling off any talent they have on their team. But nonetheless, you never know. I'd still stay away from points. I don't trust the point spread with the Giants. New England going to Chicago. Chicago favored by 6. I will be taking Chicago. However, Chicago's been pretty ugly the last couple weeks. Their pass protection sucks. Just sucks. And also, not going to lie, I'm a little shocked there wasn't some more rumblings about DJ Moore at the trade deadline. Just seems very unhappy there. I know I believe he rolled his ankle, hurt himself in some way, shape, or form, and he just walked off a play, went straight to the bench because he was hurt. As the play was still going on, I can't believe that went over very well, and he intimated that Matt Eberflus head coaches lost their locker room. It's not a great sign, and just shows some dissent in a team that looked like they were on the rise. A little shocked there wasn't more talk of him. However, New England sucks. Just flat out say it. New England sucks. I don't think they're any good. I think Chicago's better than them, so I'm going to take Chicago. Again, I avoid the point spread because I don't trust Chicago with points. Buffalo -4 going to Indianapolis. That one's easy. I would take the points on that one as well. Buffalo's going to win that game. Indianapolis, doesn't matter who they play at quarterback, just doesn't. Not worthwhile. Not worthwhile at all. Minnesota. Vikings favored by 4.5 at the fucking mark. Jacksonville Jaguars. We already know the company policy on that one. Avoid Jacksonville at all costs. Minnesota, I will take that. I still avoid the point spread because I don't trust Sam Darnold. We're starting to see him progress back to the. Denver going to Kansas City. Kansas City favored by 8.5. Don't like the points, but I sure as hell like Kansas City in this one. Obvious Kansas City win. Atlanta favored by 3.5. Going to New Orleans. New Orleans already trying to sell their team. I will be taking Atlanta. However, just because it's the NFC or the AFC matchup, or the NFC South matchup, I should say, we're also just about to talk about San Francisco and Tampa Bay. Marshawn Lattimore, I should have mentioned this in the trade deadline. RIP to the Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans, we hate each other rivalry. God, that was fun. I love two players just hating each other. Really brings out the rivalry and the competitiveness. Love that. Gonna miss seeing that twice a year. But when it comes to Atlanta, way too much firepower to lose to a team in New Orleans who has no idea what in the flying fuck they're doing right now. Absolutely not. There we go. San Francisco favored by 5.5 at Tampa Bay. I will be taking San Francisco. I just don't think Tampa's got enough to really rally anymore. Maybe Mike Evans plays, but I doubt it. Obviously, Chris Godwin's gone for the year. Tampa just lost that magic when they lost those players, but they're still competitive. So I don't trust the point spread because San Francisco's also shown they can't be trusted with a point spread. But I do trust them to win against a beleaguered Tampa team as they're starting to get. Pittsburgh going to Washington. Washington's favored by 3. This is an interesting one. I just think if someone's going to stop Washington, I'm going to go. I usually have one upset pick a week. I will take Pittsburgh. I never really like picking Pittsburgh because they're not exciting. There's not a lot to trust that's going to happen except a low scoring game defense. So I look at that and go, I think they could take them. I'm going to go Pittsburgh. I'm not crazy about the pick, but something just tells me this is a Pittsburgh game. It just says that. I'm going to go Pittsburgh. Tennessee at the Chargers. Chargers favorite at 7.5. Well, Tennessee sucks and the Chargers are good. We'll take it. We're not taking the points. The Chargers, for some reason, don't want to put up all the points that they could. But we're certainly going to take the win because we don't trust the Titans. Alrighty. New York Jets at Arizona. Arizona favored by 1. I will take Arizona in this game. The Jets' comeback against Houston, pretty wild. Especially that Jordan-esque catch from Garrett Wilson was just absurd. Tremendous job on his part to rally to beat Houston. They just didn't look good in the entire half. I think Arizona's kind of rolling right now. They're favored because they're the home team, not because they're favored because they're great. But I'll still take Arizona. I think Kyler Murray creates too many problems for the defensive play. Then we got Philly favored by 7.5 going to Dallas. I'll take Philly in that one, and I would take the points as well. Dallas sucks. You're not going to scare me with Cooper Rush to Jonathan Mingo either. Dallas, you're over. Jerry Jones, sell the team. No, I'm kidding. I do think they would be better if they sold the team. He's a tremendous businessman, but God, he sucks. Just not good. Just not good at all. So I'm going Philly on that one. Detroit favored by 3.5 at Houston. That's easy. I'm taking Detroit. Houston's been having a lot of problems with pass protection, and CJ Stroud's been struggling against blitzes, picking up the blitz, things that he's not ready to see yet. Regressed a hair in that. They're still a good team, but they're not the team. They're not the juggernaut everyone thought they could be. And Detroit's fucking rolling. Just rolling right now. You already saw what they did to Green Bay last week. Green Bay outgained them, outperformed them in many ways, and just shot themselves in the foot. However, Detroit took care of their business. When they needed a first down, they needed 3 yards, they got 7. Their offensive line is spectacular right now, doing incredibly well. They won't have to deal with the rain, which may have slowed them down a hair last week. Detroit all day on that one. And then we have Monday Night Football. Miami Dolphins going to the Rams. Rams favorite at 2.5. Taking the Rams. Don't trust the Dolphins. Don't trust Tua Tagovailoa. Don't trust that offense to do anything. And their defense sucks. Rams are now better. Simple as that. I think Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, and co. can really do a lot more to attack Miami defense. Easy pick for me. I'm going with the Rams. That is all our picks. Week 10. We're going to see how the records play out and see how we do. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did enjoy the show, go check out the rest of our episodes, available YouTube and Spotify. You can go check out the rest of our content, all available on YouTube and Spotify, and you get some cool stuff over on our social media, so you can go check us out there as well. Highly recommend you go do that for yourself. But beyond anything, enjoy your day. I know half of our country pissed in some way, shape, or form. Don't like half the outcomes. I understand that. Everyone's been in that spot before. Frustrated. I'm certainly one of them. I hide my feelings. That doesn't mean I can't speak in a civil manner about football. Go enjoy yourself. Go enjoy your time. Make the best of your day. It's the only thing you can really do to control your day. So peace, love, and hugs to you all. Catch you on the flip side. Bye!